screen. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, 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 you
All
are.
right, so we can just go ahead then. So do we all have this file opened?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so the link to where you can download this is right on the group page. So we'll just go on ahead. So let's start. Just I'll just say a short prayer and then we'll start. Father, we thank you for this meeting. We thank you for bringing us together. Help us to learn. Help us to understand. In Jesus' name, Amen.
Amen.
All right, so we'll start with the most basic thing. Start with the basic terminologies, the most common terminologies that you come across in Microsoft Excel, and they are the ones I've listed here. So we start with the first thing, which is called a row. So Microsoft Excel is a spreadsheet application, and it consists of rows and columns, right? So the rows are denoted by the numbers. So as you can see, you have one, two, three, all the way down to about 1 million. So that's this is the last row that we have in Excel. 1,048,576. That's the number of rows that we have in Excel. So the rows are the ones denoted by the numbers, right? And then we move on to the columns. So the columns are denoted by the alphabets, right? So C A B C all the way. There are about 16,000 columns. So the last one is up to XFD. So it goes from A to B to C, and then when it ends, you have AA, AB, AC, like that. So the rows are denoted by numbers, and the columns are denoted by the alphabets. Right. Please let me know if I'm moving too fast. Just draw my attention. And then we have a cell. So the cell is the interjection of a row and a column. So this is a cell. When I move to the right, this is another cell, this is another cell. So you see that where is a row and then a column interjects, that is what we call a cell. And then an active cell, which is the next one. An active cell is a cell in which you are in at the point in time. So this is a cell. So you see this green box, it is telling us that this is the active cell that we are in. This is another cell. You see, I've moved my cursor there, but it is not an active cell because I am not in this cell. This is another cell. This is another cell. But the active cell right now is this one that I am on at this point in time. If I come somewhere here and then I click on this, so this becomes the active cell now, right? So now, one of the things that helps us to know which cell we are in is called the name box. So the name box tells us the cell in which we are in. So it gives us the the columns alphabet and then the rows number. So you see the name box over here, right? So it's telling us that the cell in which we are in now is cell A6. So usually the alphabet comes first and then the number comes afterwards. So the moment you hover on it, you just see the description, which is it says name box, right? It says name box. So now the next thing we have is a formula bar. So the formula bar basically shows us um, a larger view of whatever it is that we have in a cell. So be it a text, be it a formula that we've written, be it numbers that we've written. It is called. It's excuse me. I think somebody is trying to join the meeting. Let me just quickly admit the person. Okay. All right. So let's go on. So the formula bar basically shows us in a broader form whatever it is that we have in a particular cell. So now this is the formula bar. This entire space is the formula bar. We can still come somewhere here and click down here, and then it shows us even a broader view of what is going on. Now, another way that the formula bar works is when we write a say like a function or a formula, right? The cell is going to return the answer for us, but then the formula bar shows us the formula behind the answer that we've written. So let me just show you a typical example. Let's say we have 500 here, and then we have 1000 here, and then we want to add these two, and we say equal to this plus this. So you realize that we are getting the answer in this cell. So it's telling us that the answer here is 1500. But when we come here, when we click on this cell, which makes it the active cell now, and we look into the formula bar, you realize that it's telling us that what is giving us this answer is this plus this. So another way to also look at it is just to say equal to 500 plus 1000. All right. So we got our answer, but then so now the formula bar is telling us that what is giving us this answer here is this and this. That is what is giving us the answer. So that's how the formula bar works. All right. So now we go to the next thing, which is the worksheet. The worksheet is the sheet in which we are working in at the point in time. So Excel is a file, right? We described it as a spreadsheet application, right? So meaning that there are sheets, and then the sheets in which you are. I'm looking for the best way to explain this. So there are different. So this entire space, right? Okay, let me explain it this way. This entire space that contains all of the rows and the column is a worksheet. So all of the 16,000 columns and over a million rows, they are all inside one worksheet. But then we can add another worksheet. So this sheet named terminologies is a sheet in itself. When we come here, this is another sheet, this is another sheet, this is another sheet. So now this file that contains the whole thing is called a workbook. So the entire file that contains one or more worksheets is called a workbook. But one sheet itself that contains the rows and then the columns is called a worksheet. So a single one is called a worksheet, but the entire thing is called a workbook. But then the workbook can have just one worksheet or more. I hope that is clear.
Yes. James, can you
Okay.
please mute yourself? You're distracting the class.
Uh, Sir James, please can you kindly mute yourself? Sure, he will do that once he hears. Okay, so let's move on. So now the next thing we are looking at is save and then save as. But then before I explain that, let me just quickly explain what a range is. We've looked at a cell, right? And then we've looked at an active cell. So the cell in which we are in at the moment. Sir James, please, are you there? Okay, let's move on. So the cell in which we are in is called the active cell, right? Now, when we highlight one or more cell, right, it is now called a range. So let me just give you an instance. I am in cell A4, right? Now, if I highlight all of this, now look at the name box. You realize what is telling you there. It's telling me that we've highlighted 6 rows and then 1 column. So now that is a range. When you highlight one or more cell, it is called a range. Now, the name box is going to be more useful for us when we are working with a range of data and then we have to be naming it. And instead of just referencing it, we just call the name of that range and then it brings us the entire information. When we move forward, we are going to see how it works. So just understand that highlighting one or more cell is called a range. So from here to here is a range, or even these two cells is a range, right? So this is a range. So that's the meaning of a range. Okay. All right. So now let's move on to the next thing. We are looking at save and then save as. Now, this can get a bit tricky to understand, but let me just bring it this way. When you are saving a new file, say something you have not saved before, you are going to save as. So it is asking you, what do you want to save this document as? So save as. So if it's a fresh sheet, you save as. But um, if it is an existing workbook already, then when you're updating the information in it, you save. So you realize that when you open um a new Excel workbook, right? And then you are saving that document for the first time, it's going to tell you save as. Let me see if I can share my entire screen so that you can appreciate this better. Okay, let me see. All right, so let me just do this quickly. All right, so now let me open a new Excel file right now. So now I want to save this file. I come to file, or no, let me just go ahead and say save, and then I'll come to more options. So you realize that automatically what it brings me to is save as. Because I've not saved these documents before, it is asking me what do I want to save this as and where do I want to save it. So that is save as. So if you are saving a fresh file, it is going to tell you to save it as. But if it is a file that you have already worked on before, or something that you are working on, all you are just going to do is to save. Now I'm going to bring in something else. Say that I have already saved this file, but now I want to maintain this file as one thing, and then I want to add a new information, but it's going to be another file entirely. So in that case, I can also go ahead and just save this as again. So let me just show you a typical example of what I mean. So now I have all these files here, right? They are 10 in number, and then we are working with day one, right? Now I want to make sure that all of these things are saved as day one, but then I want to add a new information. Let me just come and type here, terminologies, right? But I don't want this to save as day one. I want it to save as something else. All right. I want this to save as something else. So what I'll just do is I'll come to file, and then I'll come to save as, because I want to save it as a new document entirely. So I'll just come there and say day one updated, and then I'm going to save. So now when I'm working on this file again, I'm not working on the day one file again. I'm working on day one updated. So that's like just how the differences work. So now if I come back here and then I open day one, you realize that the terminologies I typed wouldn't come, because I have just kept these as an old document, and I have saved a new document based on what is inside here. I hope that is not confusing. Please let me know if you get that clearly so that we can move on. Are we good? Can I move on? All right, so we can move on. So let me just go back to just sharing the day one. Okay. All right, so now let's move on to the next part, which is the ribbon. So the next sheet, right? So now we are here, the ribbon. So the Excel ribbon is divided into, let me say, three categories. Let me put it that way for better understanding. So the ribbons are these entire parts that you can see here. See, file is usually not considered as one of the ribbons, even though it's a tab. All right. So these are, you can call them tabs, you can call them ribbons. All right. So from where you see the home all the way to this acrobat, and then all these things that you can see here, see this sort and filter, all of these things are a part of the ribbon. They are all part of the ribbon. All right. So now this is called a tab. All right. So we have the home tab. Okay, so let me just do this here. So the ribbon is the whole thing, and then we have tabs. All right. So we have the home tab, the insert tab, the draw tab, page layout tab, all the way to the end, all the way to the end. So now under each tab we have groups. All right. Under each tabs we have groups. So now this under the home tab we have different groups. We have the clipboard group, we have the font group, we have the alignment group, we have the number group, and then we have the styles group. When you come to insert, it's the same thing. We have the tables, illustrations, controls, and the likes. You come to page layout, it's the same thing there too. So that's how it works. Just a moment, admitter. So that's how the group also works. So under the tabs we have groups, and then inside each groups, right, we have commands. So you see the clipboard group, you have paste as a command, and then you come to the font group, you have this as a command. So bold, italics. So if I click on this, it's going to carry out a command. If I come up here and then I click on this, it carries out another command. So basically, what we are saying here is that the entire ribbon has tabs, right? And then under each tab there are groups, and then under each groups we have commands. I hope that is clear so that we can move on. Just give me a thumbs up. Can we move on? Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So now let's just move on to the next thing, which is data entry. So we start with what you can enter in Excel. What can you enter? So there are a few things you can enter. You can enter an alphabet, so A. You can enter a number, 1. You can enter special characters, um, plus or equal to, and then you can enter functions. You can enter functions. They functions are the these things that we do. So equal to sum, right? There is no. Okay, so let me just do this. So now, so this is a function, all right? So these are the things that we can enter in Excel, and then we can enter a mixture of all of these things. So you can be alphanumeric with special character. You can also enter those things in Excel. So that is how um, versatile Microsoft Excel is. Now there is a rule, and the rule is that if you are entering any formula or function in Excel, you start with equal to. All right, you start with equal to. Just a moment, I think some people are trying to join. So okay, so now you start with equal to. And the reason why you start with equal to is that the equal to that you enter at the beginning is informing Excel that you are not just entering an alphabet or a number, you are entering a function or a formula. So now let me just cite an example. I want to add 500 plus 1000. You realize that it is not going to give me an answer because we explained that Excel, what you can enter in Excel can be a number, can be a special character, can be an alphabet or anything. But now, what makes Excel differentiate the entries you are making from when you are entering a formula or a function is by starting with equal to. So now when I come here and I do equal to and I press enter, you realize that it gives me an answer. All right. Again, if it could be a formula as well, I can type so that what I just did was a formula. Now let me use a function 1000 and then 500, and then I do equal to sum open brackets this plus this, right? And then I close the bracket, enter. So now you realize that I am getting the answer. If I delete the equal to from the beginning and then I type enter, you realize that all it is just doing is telling me the things that I have typed. All right. So you realize that this is an alphanumeric entry. Okay. So what happens is that Excel is telling me that the equal to that I bring in changes the entire scope of what I am entering. All right. So that is the difference. Now let's come down to how to confirm our entries. If I type something like this, today is Monday, you realize that there is a cursor in the cell that is still blinking. That blink means that my entry has not been confirmed yet. If I press escape, my entry goes away. But if I type the same thing and then I say, let me press the arrow down key, I come down and then the entry is confirmed. So one of the ways to confirm your entry is by using the arrow key. All right, you can use the arrow key. Another way, so it could be, say, Monday, arrow up, it confirms it. Or I type Monday again, arrow right, it confirms it. The confirming means that now the data is, the entry is entered into Excel. And if I want to take it out, I have to come and press delete to take it away. All right. So as long as the moment this thing stops blinking, it means that my entry is confirmed. I can also press enter. And what happens when you press enter is that it takes you to the cell beneath the cell in which you have typed. So when I press enter, it brings me down. Now let me just type Tuesday. Another way to confirm my entry is by pressing tab. So if I press tab, it takes me to the next cell to the right of where I've just entered the data. Now, what using tab does for you is that when you are typing, let me just enter something else. So, Wednesday. Now, I can press tab again and then I type um, Thursday. Now, if I press enter, it is going to bring me down to where I typed Tuesday. So basically, what this does is that it is just taking the intelligence that you are entering a data set and then you are starting from the exact place where you started pressing tab and then it takes you back there. If I come here, I press arrow right and then I press tab and then I press enter, it will bring me right under Wednesday. So that's the difference between how to confirm your entries. So what you use to confirm your entry also matters. Now, say that, let me just take this off. I want to enter something, right? And then I want to remain in the same cell. I want to confirm the entry and stay in the same cell. I can come up here and then use this. You see, it's telling me that this is enter. All right. So if I press this, it's going to confirm the entry and stay there. It's not going to move to the right or to the left or down. Another way to do this is also, I can type Monday and then I'll press and hold the control key on my keyboard and then press enter and then it's going to stay. So those are the ways you can use to confirm your entries. And then another way is also, let's look at this as well. Tuesday. So after typing, I just come anywhere and then I click and then my entry is still confirmed. So those are the ways to confirm your entries in Excel. Please draw my attention if you have any questions so far. Otherwise, we can just move on. Okay, so we'll move on. Let's look at how to edit your entries. how to edit your entries. So let me just type again Monday over here. Now, I want to edit this, right? I can double click here, all right, and then you realize that the cell becomes active and it is blinking. I can come here and then type in here. So I see Monday, and then I confirm the entry. So I can edit it in here by double clicking on this, or um, F2. I can also edit this by pressing F2. For some laptops, for some keyboards, right, you can just press F2 direct and then it's going to bring you to edit. But for some other keyboard, you have to press the function key on your keyboard. That is the FN key. And then you press F2 before you are going to see this cursor blinking. So that's another way to edit your entry. The other way is also to come into the formula bar, and then you can just click inside the formula bar, and then you can also edit in here. So those are ways you can edit your entries in Excel. All right. So let me know if we are good, and then we can move on. Just give me a thumbs up. Am I audible? Okay, sure. Thank you. All right. So now let's move on to the next sheet, which is formatting cells. And here, when we are formatting cells, we would look at some of these. We'll be using the Home tab, and then we'll look at the fonts group, the alignment group, the maybe the number group to a bit, and then cell styles as well. All right. So now, one of the things, the first thing we'll be looking at is the font. So we can highlight all of this, and then we come to the fonts group, and then we can change the font here. So just click arrow down, and then we can just change the fonts to whatever it is that we like. I like to use Aptos a lot, or Cambria. So I'll just select the font that I like. All right. And then I can change the font size. I can change this to 12. That's another thing we can do. And then I can come here and then make this bold. Okay. And then, Millie, do you have a question? Please go ahead.
Yeah, not a question per se, but your screen keeps going off and on. I don't know if I'm the only one
Oh,
experiencing
I
it.
see. Oh, is she the only one with that experience? Please let me know.
Yeah, I think it's from here. My screen is stable.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. Millie, please kindly check your network.
All right, I'll do that.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Okay. So another thing we can do is also come here, and then we can change this. So we can look at there is what we call the font, the fill color, which is the cell color. We can change the color of the cell, and then we can change this to something like this. So that is a cell color, or it's called a fill color. So you are changing the color of the cell. So it says that color the background of cells to make them stand out. All right. And then we can also change the font color as well. So it comes here, and then we can make this white as well. So we are just playing around the how to format cells, okay? And then another thing we can do is to, because this is the heading, we want it to cut across um, from column A all the way to column F. Is there a question? Okay, there's somebody that wants to be admitted. Okay, so let's move on. So we want this heading to cover from column A all the way to column F. So what we'll do is we are just going to merge and center. All right. So we'll merge all these cells and then we are going to center this text that we have here. And we are going to do that by highlighting from here all the way here. So you can use your mouse to do that. So you just click on the first place and then you send it here. Otherwise, you can just press the shift key on your keyboard and then arrow right all the way to column F. And then you click on merge and center. So now we have a header. So it's covering the whole thing. So we can change this cell color again and then we change the font color as well. All right. So we can do that. Another thing that we can do is to also highlight all of this and then we can bring in a border. All right. So still under the font group. So we can bring in a border. So we're just going to make it all borders. All right. So we'll make it all borders. So we'll make this all borders. Where is this? Okay, Julius. All right. So we'll make this all borders. All right. And that is another thing we can do. And we can just open this up a bit. So just we'll look at how to work with um, rows and columns and a worksheet later. I think probably tomorrow or so. We'll look at that in detail. All right. So for now, we are just looking at this. Let me just maximize my screen a bit more so that okay. So we can just do this too. Another thing we can do is to change the alignment of this. Okay, let me just change this one instead, the heading. So we now we are the alignment group. So we can change this to the middle. We can center this. Realize that the alignment has changed. We can align it to the right, and then we can also align it to the left. If we open these up a bit, realize that now um, it is aligned to the bottom. We can align this to the middle. We can align this to the top, and then align center. So we can just bring it to the middle and then align center. All right. And this part too, we can also make it all borders. Okay. So that's another thing that we can do. So um, another thing we can look at is this part, this number group. All right. We can highlight all of this. Say that we want to remove the Ghana city sign from it. We'll just come here where we can see this accounting. We can just come down, come to more number formats, and then realize that it is giving us accounting. We can change this to general, and then we click OK. But because we are working with numbers, we want the comma to come so that it will show that it is figures that we are working with. So we can just come down here again, come to number formats, then number, then we can come to use thousand separator. When we click on this, we can decide not to bring in the decimal places, make it 0 and click OK. All right. So down here, we have the total costs. We have the total cost. If you want this to stand out, we can come to cell styles. We can come to cell styles and then we can change this to say outputs. We can change this to output. So it changes the color for us and then it makes it bold. So it's telling us that this part is bold and then this is the output of all of these things. Another way we can do this, especially for accountants, for us to finalize it is double underline. So when we come here, the fonts group again, underline. Instead of one underline, we can just click down and then we come to double underline and then it underlines it for us. Okay, that's another thing that we can do. Let me see what else we are yet to look at. Um, so let's come here and then let's edit this and bring in 2026. So this will be January 2026. Okay, let's change this to date. This is not what I want. So now, okay, so now you realize that I want to type out January 2026, but it has changed the format for me. So I want to format this cell to give me the kind of date that I want. So what I'll just do is I'll come to this number group, click on this drop down, and then I'll come to more number formats, and then I'll select date, and then I'll select the date style that I want. I usually prefer, okay, I think English Ghana works. Oh, you can't see the background, so I have to share my entire screen. So let me just share my entire screen. Okay. All right. So now I want to change this to the kind of date that I want. So I'll just come here, click on this drop down, and then I'll come to more number formats. All right. Then I'll come to date. Then I'll select, okay, I think this first one works for me. And then I'll click OK. So it is telling me that 1st January 2026. Now, if I close this up a bit, no, still, this is not what I want. Let me just change this to general. And then I'll type January. There's just something I want to show you over here. January 2026. Still taking it back to custom. Okay, let me try text. Still January 2026. Okay, fine. I think this works. So now I'll just close this up. So now what you're noticing here is that I don't have enough space and this thing is not showing well for me. But because the column the row height is big, what I can just do is I can do something we call wrap text. So if the text is too long, Excel can wrap it up so that it can just break it down and then you see the next thing. So when I click on wrap text, you realize that now it is coming as January and then 2026 is coming right under it. Are we good to go? Please draw my attention if I'm moving too fast. Are we good to go? I need to get a feedback from you so that we can move on. So that I'll be sure my network doesn't have an issue.
I'm okay. I don't know about the others. The network is also stable.
Okay, okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so now let's move on to, so these are just the basics of the formatting, right? So let's move on to navigation and highlight. Let's move on to navigation and highlights. Now, this is a very large data set. It has about 201, okay, not very large, it's just a bit bulky. It has 201 rows. It has 201 rows. Now, how do you move from one part to the other very easily? You know, you want to check something at the other end, you want to check all of this, want to move very fast. How do you do it? You want to highlight your data easily. How do you move? So the first thing we can look at is moving by the arrow key, which is very common. So when I want to go to the right, I just use my arrow right key, okay, and then it takes me all the way. And then I can press arrow left and then I come back, arrow down and then I move to the down, or arrow up and then I move to the top. All right. And then I can also use my mouse. I can come here and then I can use this to control these the rows here. All right. And then I can do this. I can also check through the columns as well by using this one. So I can go this way as well. So that's another way to navigate. But if you want to navigate easily, one of the things you can use is the control and then the arrow key. Now, if I want to move to the last cell that contains a data at the down, I'll just press the control key and arrow down, and then it takes me to the last data. Control and then arrow down. All right. So that's CTRL plus arrow down. Okay. It's the same thing. Control and arrow right, control arrow left, control arrow up. Okay. So control arrow up, it takes me back. Control arrow right, it takes me to the last um part that has a data in it. So if I press control and arrow right again, it takes me to the last cell because there is no data again in this particular range. So it will automatically take me to the last cell. Now, if I press to the last column, if I press control and arrow left, it brings me to the first place in which you can see a data. All right. So that's how it works. If I press control and arrow left again, it takes me to the last part in which you can see something. So that's how control and then the arrow arrow key works. So now the next thing that I want to show you is if you want to highlight a data set, right? You want to you can also highlight by again using your mouse. So you can just double click and then you go all the way like this, or you can go like this and then you go all the way down. But a faster way would be using the shift key. So um, so you can just press the shift key and then you press arrow down and then it begins to highlight for you. So I've already highlighted this. I can just press. I'm still holding the shift key, and then I press arrow right, and then it highlights all of this for me as well. So that is very easy, an easy thing to do. So shift arrow right, shift down, and then I can easily highlight whatever it is that I want. Now, you remember we spoke about name box. If I want to go to the last cell here is say we have the last row is 201. So if I want to come to a data in say M in between, right? So I can just come to the name box here and then I can type M100. I press enter and then it takes me there. So that's another function for the name box. Okay, that's another function for the name box. So that's another way to highlight, another way to move around. So now if I want to highlight and then jump to the down, I'm going to press control. Remember that control and arrow key takes you to the last data cell, right? And then shift and arrow key highlights it for you. Now, if we combine the three, you press control and shift and arrow right, is going to highlight from the first part all the way to the last part where you can see data for you. Are we good to go? And then if I press control shift arrow down, it highlights the whole thing all the way down for me again. So that's it makes it very easy for you to navigate and then for you to select your data. All right, it makes it very easy. So now if I want to, another thing I can do is I want to highlight from order ID all the way to warehouse. So instead of pressing control, instead of pressing shift and going like this, or doing control shift that will take me all the way to the down, I can just stay here on order ID, press shift. I'll press and hold shift, and then I'll come and click on shipping mode. That means I want to highlight all the way to shipping mode. Okay, so that's another way to move around. I can also stay here if I want to highlight all the way to where I have 6, right? I don't know if you can see my cursor. Let me just zoom in a bit. Let me zoom in a bit. So I want to highlight to where we can see this air. So I'll just press and hold shift, and then I'll click on this, and then it highlights the whole thing for me. So those are the basic shortcuts that you can use to move around. Emily, you've taken over the presentation. Okay, are we good? All right, so let's move on. So basically, that's how you do your navigation, and then you highlight very easily. So let's look at the last thing for today, which is the shortcuts, right? I think this one you can just write these out somewhere or save it, and then you can refer to them later. So Control S is for save, Control Z is for undo, Control C is to copy, Control X is to cut, Control V is to paste, Control Y is to redo what you've done. So if I delete this, all right, and then I say undo it, that's Control Z, it's going to bring it back. But if I press Control and Y, it's going to redo what I undid. It's going to redo what I undid. Okay, and then Control D is to duplicate. Now you realize that at the top I have redo. So if I want to copy what I have in that cell, which is what I've typed there as redo, I can just press Control D, and then whatever is in that cell is going to come. So I just Control Z to undo. So Control P is for print. So it's going to show you the print preview over here. And then Control T is for table. Tables are very, 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 very useful in Excel. When we get to pivot tables, we'll be looking at them. All right. And then Control F is for find. So you can just find something easily here. If you're looking for something in a particular data set, you can find. Then Control G is to go to. Control G is to go to. Then Shift plus space bar. So Shift plus space bar is going to select the entire row for you. All right. And then Control plus space bar is going to select the entire column for you. So those are the base off the top of my head that I could write out. Those are the shortcuts that I believe will be very useful. So at this point, I am going to take questions for what we've done so far for today. So we'll be wrapping up here for tonight, and then we'll take it a notch higher tomorrow. Is there any question? Any question from what we've done today?
Yes. At a point, the drop downs were not showing.
Okay.
There was a point you took off the Ghana city sign, but I didn't see.
Okay. I think
Yes,
here.
yes. Where
Right.
exactly you went to? Oh,
Okay. So let me just do it again. So it's I'm going to highlight this. So what we come to the number group. So this drop down, and then we come to more number formats. So we can either use currency or accounting. So when we select either and we click on OK, the Ghana city sign is going to come. The Ghana city sign is going to come. And if we want to take it out, it's just the same way. We'll just click on this drop down again. We come to more number formats, and then we can just click on this drop down, and then we select none. Then we click OK, and then it is gone.
thank you.
You're welcome, sir. So any other question? All right. So if there is no other question, we would call it a night here, and then we'll pick up tomorrow. Let me see the things we have to do tomorrow. Okay, so tomorrow we have quite a number of things to do. So tomorrow we'll be looking at printing setup. If you want to print your page, what do you have to do? If you want something to repeat at the top, if you want to add a background, if you want to add a header, If you want to add a page number, page one of one, page one of two, those kind of things. We look at how to work with rows and columns. How do you insert a row in between a data set? How do you insert a column? How do you insert a row? We'll look at that. And then we'll look at conditional formatting. You have a data set, you want to quickly highlight something. You don't want to filter it, you don't want to sort it out. You just want the person you are sending the full data to be able to see some certain things inside the data. We'll look at conditional formatting. We'll look at relative referencing. We'll look at um, another example of relative referencing. We'll look at absolute referencing, two examples of that as well. We'll look at the arithmetic operators tomorrow. And then I think the other thing um, we'll be looking at the functions. So we'll look at all of these functions tomorrow. The sum, the sum ifs, count blank, how many blank cells are in an entire data set, how count if, count ifs, average, what is the minimum, what is the maximum. And then we'll also look at, let me see, I think we'll be looking at if as well. And then we'll also look at switch. Let's say this is online and then you want to change it from online to say Momo. How do you switch it? And then you can just run the whole thing and then it's going to repeat. So we'll look at all of that tomorrow. God keeping us. So